Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What is the scariest thing you've witnessed in the middle of the night? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Was staying the night at a new lady friend's house when I woke up at 4 a.m. to the strange sensation of someone watching me. I slightly opened my eyes but didn't move. I saw someone staring at us from the partially opened bedroom door. Her dog took notice at the same time, and I burst out of bed when the dog started barking. She wakes up in a panic, and I yell for her to lock the door while I chase the intruder. She lived in a 3-story townhouse, and the bedroom was on the 3rd floor. So I run down the stairs, then turn the corner to the next flight of stairs, only to see the front door swinging open. She's yelling from the bedroom, wondering what's going on, so I let her know that someone broke in. She then tells me that it was probably a psychotic ex-boyfriend that still has a key. Great. The next morning, we're getting ready to head back to the place when I realized that my shoes were missing. The bastard stole my favorite pair of shoes. It was pretty wild having that feeling of someone watching you and having it be real. Was riding along with my dad, who was a trucker. It was Christmas break, and sometime while driving through the night he shouts, "Oh no!" over and over again. I was laying in the truck cabin bed playing my PlayStation on the little TV, so I was a bit concerned. We hadn't hit anything. He tells me to put my shoes on and we gotta get help, and tells me to dial 911. So Dad pulls over, and I see it behind our tractor trailer. A speeding car was going too fast and had rolled multiple times down a steep embankment, so we went to see if we could do anything while we waited for ER. Family of 4, 2 kids in the back, no seat belts, no kids' seats. Everyone inside was a crumpled, bloody mess. Once ambulance came, we left. They arrived pretty quick, and though I can't say for certain, I was pretty sure the whole family had passed. Kinda messed me up a bit. Had never seen a body in that state, or a dead body outside of a funeral. Even to this day, 20 plus years later, I still think about what I had seen, even after going into the medical field and witnessing worse. Not me, but the poor Colombian lady visiting my parents with her husband when I was a kid. To set the environment, my bedroom and the guest bedroom were upstairs in a loft-style setting. The only bathroom upstairs was at the very end, the top of the stairs to my loft. My parents' bedroom was downstairs. I was about 7 years old. Parents and their friends were all drinking wine well after I went to bed. I woke from a nightmare in the middle of the night and was screaming bloody murder from my parents. Of course, this woke everyone up. My dad, who sleeps naked, was tasked with throwing on his short European-style robe and coming to comfort me. Of course, my commotion led to our Colombian friend going to the bathroom upstairs and closing the door. Dad comforts me and leaves my bedroom. She opens the bathroom door. Keep in mind, everyone was good and sloshed, and startles my dad. He starts rolling down the stairs with nothing but this tiny robe on. He hits the end of the landing and is semi-conscious, but naked. She shrieks, and now everyone is up, including me, with my dad rolling around naked on the staircase landing and everyone gathered around him. I remember being even more terrified and just going back to my room before anyone noticed me. Years later, when I was older, I get to hear our family friend, in a thick Colombian accent, retell the story. As her words are, "As we were rolling, all I saw was balls and asshole, balls and asshole, balls and asshole. I didn't know if I should laugh or cry. Yeah, I'd be scared if I witnessed that impromptu in the middle of the night." Back in 2009, my mom, brother, and I still lived with her in her condo. She'd been diagnosed with breast cancer, and both my bro and I were leaving college for the time being to take care of her. So I was home, and she was pretty sick from treatment, but my brother was still upstate, as he hadn't gotten out of school yet. My room had sliding glass windows that lead to a semi-flat rooftop that was shared with basically all the other condos on one side of the street. One night, I was on my computer, depressed as shit, listening to music too loud to drown my feels, when my mom came into my room. Mind you, she wasn't walking around much because meds made her tired, and I was up a flight of stairs from hers. She asked me if I was walking around. I told her no, I'd been sitting here with music, when she grabbed her chest and looked terrified. I jumped up from my chair by the window and ran to her, thinking she was having some kind of reaction, when she just shouted, "Get away from us!" I realized she'd been looking behind me. I turned and saw a man in a hoodie looking into my window. He'd flinched away when my mom shouted and was walking away like he'd been caught loitering. I remember feeling like ice had flooded my veins when I realized he could have been watching me at my desk for who knows how long. We called the cops, and they basically did nothing. They told us to lock the windows and keep a bar across them in case they tried to break in. I decided keeping a knife by my bed that was within view of the window was the only way I would be able to sleep while there again. Our house had a break-in during the night. Our daughter was sleeping in the family room because she'd moved her bed to her college apartment. She came screaming up the stairs that someone was trying to kick in the door. Then we heard it. The whole house shuddered a bit with each strong kick at the door. My husband grabbed his shotgun, which wasn't loaded, and raced down the stairs. I called 911. After I spoke with the operator for a minute or two, the noise from downstairs stopped. I handed the phone to my daughter and ran downstairs myself, mad to find out what was going on. My husband was walking around the downstairs looking for intruders, and both kitchen doors were open. We have 2 kitchen doors on either side of the house, one on the street side and one by a creek. The intruders had kicked in the creek side door, and not very intelligently. They kicked in the hinge side instead of the lock. They got the door open just about when my husband ran into the kitchen. At that time, he manipulated that part of the shotgun that sounds like one is getting ready to fire it. When the intruders heard that noise, they left and ran away. The local cop on duty showed up pretty quickly after that. Even though the crisis was over, my heart felt like a huge, strong thing squeezing in my chest. The cop checked the house and the neighborhood, but couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. He helped my husband get the broken door secured for the night and recommended that we get a security system. We didn't go back to sleep that night. The police never did catch the actual culprits. There were 2 groups of interest. 2 groups of teen boys who tended to get in trouble were both sleeping out that night. We did get the security system, and a few years later started keeping dogs, large dogs. When I was very young, my brother gave me a Nintendo Entertainment System and I would stay up playing it. One night, my dad wasn't home and my brother was gone. It was just my brother and I in the house, and I had been playing Mario Brothers for a couple hours. I don't know how late it was because I was a kid, but this is what got me. To this day, I don't know what it was, and my mother says she cannot remember this happening. When I got tired and turned off the NES, I remember I turned around toward the hallway to go look for my mother, and I was surprised to see her standing in the doorway. I don't know how long she had been there, but she stood there like a statue. At first I called out, something like, "Hey Mom," but she didn't reply. I realized something was off because she was perfectly still and just staring at me without blinking, and it didn't look like she was breathing. She was just this static figure. At the time, I didn't know any better, so I walked toward her, asking if she was all right, but nothing, no response. The whole time, her head kept tracking me and no blinking. The last thing I remember is the scene changing, and she was back to normal. This was a long time ago, so I don't remember how I would get her to stop being in that statue state, or if she just got out of it on her own. All I remember is that it happened several times, and each time I would ask her if she was okay and go to her, like hug her sometimes. I would cry because she freaked me out, but then I don't remember how that would end. My memory just skips to us in the kitchen or my dad walking in and then her snapping out of it and continuing like normal. I very vividly remember on one of those occasions I got really close to her with a chair and kept looking at her face, but she wouldn't react at all. I wonder what that was. This happened about a week ago. I have a faucet in the kitchen sink that turns on if you touch it anywhere on the faucet. Well, I was in my room with my computer, door shut, and I had my baby monitor on to watch my 2-year-old son. While listening to music, I suddenly hear and recognize the sound of the kitchen sink running at full capacity. I opened the door to a dark kitchen and living room, and the faucet was running. As soon as I stepped out from the doorframe of my room to investigate, the faucet turned off. I slowly moved closer, and when I was close from my loud baby monitor, I heard my son chuckle in his sleep, something he had never done before. I get up close to the faucet and reach to manually close the faucet valve, and as I do so, it turns on at full capacity and startles the shit out of me. My time to shine. I was at an Airbnb with some friends in a city we were visiting. We had a good night out in town, and after some drinks, we went back to the Airbnb to sleep. I slept in the living room on the couch. Middle of the night, I woke up, sensing something was off. I don't know how I could sense this, but in the kitchen I see a dark silhouette of a person. At first, I thought it was one of my friends getting some water or something, but then I quickly realized it was not any friend of mine, a complete damn stranger. I jumped out of the couch, still not really believing this isn't a dream, and said firmly, "Who are you?" The person then quietly said, "Hey." I said, "What's going on? Who are you?" Getting ready to defend myself, I quickly realized this person was shit-faced, mumbling and stumbling. It turned out to be a college student from the nearby college. They got so blacked out and somehow entered through the front door. It was freezing outside and he was shivering. I let the guy sit down on the couch, gave him some water, and when he came to, he decided he really wanted to leave. I asked him if he knew how to get home, and he insisted he did. None of my friends woke up through this encounter, and to this day, no one really knows about this except the friends that slept through all this. I'm a male, 25. My brother is now 17. This happened a good few years back now. When I lived at home with my parents, I shared a room with my little brother. I was about 15, so he was about 7 years old. He used to often sleepwalk and talk in his sleep, but this became a regular thing, so I knew how to deal with it and calmly walk him back to his bed and lay him back to sleep. One night, I was in my room awake playing Call of Duty. It was like 2 a.m. on the weekend, so I had all the lights off in my room other than my light on my TV. My brother had been sound asleep in his bed behind me for a while, when out of nowhere suddenly, he sits straight up in his bed, looking dead forward. His head slowly turns 90 degrees to face towards me. He had a completely blank expression on his face, almost like he was staring straight through me. Then, out of nowhere, his eyes shoot wide open and he starts to scream. This scream was horrifying. It looked like he was possessed by some sort of demon. I noped the F out of there and woke my mom and told her to come with me. But by the time she woke up and came in, he was back asleep in his bed as if nothing had happened. I've always remembered this story and it freaks me out to this day. Something about the look on his face stays with me. I suffered from sleep paralysis and recurring nightmares until about the age of 6. In the nightmare, I would wake up at the opposite end of the house from where my bedroom was. Sometimes I would see two very obese, very dead people with unnatural grins on their faces. Other times, I would see two rectangles, one red and one blue. They would chase me down the hallway back towards my bedroom. As I ran, the sense of dread would build more, and all I could think was, get back to your bed and you'll be safe. So I would run and run for what seemed like hours, but the nightmare wouldn't end at the bed. Time and time again, I would get to the bed and pull my covers up to my chin as they folded themselves through my door and inched closer and closer to me, reaching out to grab me. I'd wake up right before they grabbed me. That's when the sleep paralysis kicked in. I can only describe what was sitting on my chest each time I awoke as television static given form, a featureless face, save for two piercing red eyes and another unnatural grin. It had giant claws for hands and would sit there just staring and smiling for what seemed like an eternity. I'd tried to scream, but no sound would come. Eventually, the creature would crawl off of me, onto the walls or ceiling, maintaining eye contact at all times. Then it would leave, dragging its clawed hands along the walls as I finally found my voice again and screamed. My parents would come and my dad would spend time searching for what I saw, but of course, there was nothing to be found. A couple of years ago, I was living in a student house in a big city, shared with 4 other people. One night at 3 a.m., the doorbell starts ringing nonstop, and it's loud. So at first I'm like, okay, what is this prank? And I try to wait until someone goes to check it out. Turns out I'm home alone, and the bell's still going off. I get out of bed and shakily open the door. No one there. Bell still goes on, so I pull out the plug and try to go back to sleep. I text my roommates. They have no idea and laugh it off. Next day in daylight, I see the doorbell had been smashed off and the wires were strung together. Sure enough, a couple of weeks later, it happens again at 3 a.m. Again, when I'm home alone. Shakily, I go down the stairs, open the door, no one there. Doorbell hadn't been replaced yet, and I guess someone strung the wires together so the bell rings nonstop. Up until this day, I still don't know what, who, or why. My roommates told me some former roommate had beef with someone who'd come up to the house, and I guess that's the only closure I'll get, but man, was I scared.